Hiring table one. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Mise en Place, getting ready for careers in hospitality. My name is Alejandro Cantagallo. I'm one of the career advisors here in the career development department, right down in C102. We have flyers on the front table if you want to find us. And my job at the department is unique because I work specifically with culinary and tourism students. I just came on board in May and will be working to develop not only relationships and materials for all of you, but as well as resources and other things that can help students specifically in the career path of culinary and tourism. I'm from the industry. I have owned restaurants. I have owned butcher shops. I've worked for large companies like Union Square Events. I've worked for small companies. I've also been I still am a faculty member over at City Tech, where I've taught culinary classes, food and beverage cost control. So I've got a lot of experience that can help really leverage the resources that the university already has, but really specifically geared towards the needs of culinary and tourism students, which we know are unique and different than many of the other majors. So that said, today we're presenting the Career Development Department in coordination with Culinary Arts, as well as the Tourism and Hospitality, are presenting Mise en Place. This is a fireside chat. I'm going to have we're really blessed to have folks, you know how it is to get out to campus. So we are really blessed to have folks that came all the way out here, not just to physically be here, but to also be, in company with all of you to be able to share some of their history and some of their experiences to hopefully be supportive in your career path and defining what the next steps are as you walk through what's left of your time here at Kingsborough and into whatever the next chapter holds. The way we're going to do this is I'm going to hand over to Mike to Chef Lexis in a moment, once I do some more introductions. And then we're going to hear them chat a little bit about a few things, and then we're going to open it up for questions. So as you are listening and you have questions, curiosities, things that you want to know more about, we're going to have an opportunity for you to ask those towards the end of the program. And, we'll have some cookies graciously donated by the students of the Culinary Arts Department. Well, they made them. The materials were bought by CUNY. But anyway, it's from the department. It's all food made here in-house, so hyper local, maybe? I don't know. And we'll start there. So once again, my name is Alejandro Cantagallo. I'm a career development advisor in the Career Development and Experiential Learning Department. Let me introduce our fireside chat panel of fireside chatists. I'm going to start off at the far end with Iasiah. Iasiah Kelsey is a seasoned hospitality professional with over 2 decades of experience, inheriting his passion for culinary arts from a lineage of chefs. He has held key roles, including general manager, beverage director, sommelier, and baker at companies like Hillstone Restaurant Group, Walt Disney World, Marriott Hotels, and the Marcus Samuelsson Restaurant Group. Currently a restaurant director, Iasiah manages operations, develops beverage programs, and collaborates with kitchen teams to enhance service and culinary offerings. He also provides consulting services to uplift small and BIPOC businesses, driven by a commitment to inclusivity, creativity, and fostering diversity in the industry. Big round of applause for Iasiah for joining us. In the middle, Chef Coco. Coco, the creative caker. Did I do a good job? I hope so. Is from Hackensack, New Jersey, even further than Sheepshead Bay. Is from Hackensack, New Jersey, and remembers as a child having a huge appetite and a love for food. She felt like an outcast and at times even crazy for loving to eat so much, until the term foodie was invented. Then she finally felt understood, and quite naturally, in this freedom to love food, she got a job at a restaurant. She fell in love with the industry. It fueled her purpose, and during that time, Coco and Mom, Sparkle, opened a bakery in New Jersey. Though Coco was all in on this venture, she thought she was just being obedient to her mom's passion and not hers. And after 3 years in 2 locations, Coco and Mom were exhausted. Sparkle moved to Florida, and Coco stopped baking for good. But she couldn't stay away for too long, so she picked up her spatula and rolling pin and started baking and caking ever since, and is now focusing her business on making brownies. Welcome, Chef Coco. And finally, Chef Lexis. Growing up in Harlem, Chef Lexis developed a passion for food early on, inspired by her family's tradition of home-cooked meals and her fascination for birthday cakes. Though she initially pursued accounting at Baruch College, her love for cooking had led her to Kingsborough Community College's culinary program, where she reignited her culinary passion. At 23, she opened her first bakery, Lady Lexis Sweets in East Harlem, while continuing her education and competing in pastry competitions. Her talents earned her a spot on Food Network's Chopped Sweets and recognition in prominent events and media outlets. Chef Lexis now serves as a private chef, educating others through cooking classes and promoting her fusion of Puerto Rican and Charleston flavors, which she calls Boricua Quiche Cuisine. She's also a faculty member in our department here at Kingsborough. Welcome, Chef. Okay, so I'm going to hand over the mic. I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to hand it over to far more talented people to get the conversation started.
I need the questions. I mean, I could start with the questions, and then Oh no, that's perfect. All right. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, sorry. I already messed up on the mic. I'm supposed to be personal. Hi, you guys. Chef Lexis, right? So I think we should talk about if I was in college, what I want to hear about the culinary industry. The good sides, right? Not so much the other sides, because we always know the other sides, right? So let's start with, if you were in their shoes, how did you know when you wanted to do this? Like, what made you know that, okay, I'm going to do the food industry?
Okay. So for me, the moment I realized that this was the industry for me was when I got my first serving job at California Pizza Kitchen. And I literally, in a world, because most would visualize the environment to be very chaotic and hectic, and I found such peace and solace there. And I literally would go to work and call that my safe space. And so I knew at that moment that that was where I needed to be. And also being a food lover, there was food coming in and out of the kitchen, so I was excited. I got to talk about food all day. And then the joy that the food would bring people from my recommendations or from a celebration, this was just all something I needed to be a part of.
Thank you. So a bit about myself is, as Alejandro mentioned, I come from a family of chefs. So like Nicole, it kind of came from my love for food. And I really had a sweet tooth, huge sweet tooth. So oftentimes I was on that little step stool, helping grandma out, make cakes, and lining that finger, finishing the bowl, that cake batter. And it really grew and it stuck with me. And, it's really in my list, in my veins. My grandfather was a baker. My father's a chef, and my uncle's also in the industry as well. And, I really stayed true to who I was. I was always different. I always wanted to do something else what was usually expected from me as where I was from and my race. So I really just was really committed to it. And I knew that I wanted to be a chef at 8 at a time where it wasn't popular for men to want to bake, let alone be in the kitchen. And I stayed true to it, and I got accepted into a culinary vocational high school where it was centered around culinary, hospitality, and baking. So got accepted. I think it was about 90 entries, and I was one of 30 to get in. So I just saw that from a sign from God to keep pushing. And like most people, we started out in fast food and started at Taco Bell. And grew from there and started working for Marriott as a prep cook at 15 in a kitchen full of grown adults that weren't so nice, which was really, I really started to, my skin became pretty thick after that time. So I just kind of pushed through and, attended Johnson & Wales University in Providence, Rhode Island. And we'll start there. Thanks.
So when I was a teenager, I worked at Chuck E. Cheese. Yeah, so that was my first introduction to culinary, I guess, right? And I would see the pizzas and everything. They wouldn't let you work in the back unless you were 18, which kind of sucked. But I was the head cashier, so I still had to worry about the experience. So that was my first front of the house experience, how you can treat customers and how you're the first, I guess, line of defense before everything else goes crazy in the kitchen, right? So when the pizzas don't come out and it's been 15 minutes and we have this guarantee, they're asking me why the pizza didn't come out. Yeah, or why it's burnt or why it's missing toppings. So yeah, I totally understand those first fast food jobs. I want to say, when did I know I liked culinary? The funny part about it wasn't the food that I really wanted to make. It was the experiences I wanted to create. So when I came to Kingsborough, I honestly thought I wanted to do event planning. I came from, when David Tutera was a thing.
Right.
And you would see all these
The
beautiful,
flowers.
beautiful flowers and these beautiful weddings. And I would see all these things, and I was like, you know what? They used to have the certificates, for event planning. It wasn't a thing before, it wasn't as accessible. So you know what? I really do like desserts though. I was like, I wouldn't mind doing both, but I really want to do events. And then I came here, and when I got here, they were like, oh well, you got to do it as like an elective. I was like, I guess, all right, fine, right? But then when I got to the baking classes and I took the patisserie class, I'm like, oh, I'm actually kind of good at this. And they're like, why? I'm like, well, I like to eat dessert, so that's kind of what made me have great flavor profiles and flavor profiles I never thought that I had. But because you eat so much food, you get to recreate them from your memories. So yeah, that was my first really inkling. Like, okay, yeah, I want to do this.
Awesome.
So, every day we get up, we go to these restaurants, we bake these cakes, they burn, we make cookies, they come out rough, the customers don't like them. Sometimes they complain about everything under the sun. So what makes you want to go there every day, despite all those things that could go wrong?
I would have to say what drives me is being my own boss. I know that if I don't get up and go to work, there is nothing in the refrigerator to eat. And I love to eat. And so these are things that motivate me. But in addition to that, I have an 8-year-old daughter who absolutely loves food as much as I do. And I can't wait for her, or I love watching her journey into her path. I don't know what, if you ask now, she's going to be a food critic. But I don't know if that's going to turn into her being a world-renowned chef someday. But I am motivated by creating new environments and food experiences for her. And I can't wait for her to see me flourish, because then that will motivate her. And yeah.
Thank you. So, again, I've been doing this 22 years, 38. So again, I just going back to just being focused, and what really pushes me every day is I just wake up fighting every day, and I think it's important that I give 100% every single day, and that 100% might look different. That might look like 10% or 35% or 60% from someone else, but it's important for me to be that person or be that representation to whomever that might want to aspire to do what I'm doing as well. It wasn't until I was in college. Like I said, I went to Johnson & Wales to be a pastry chef, and I doing an internship at Walt Disney World. It was one opportunity for me to work front of house station at the Polynesian Resort, home of Lilo and Stitch, and it was a tempering station. It was cool, and pretty cool. I'm just on the grind, and it wasn't until I saw another African American male front of the house, and I was like, oh, well, maybe I could do that too. And it didn't occur to me. I've seen it, but it's at that time it was 2006, and I didn't see us doing that. I barely saw us in the kitchen. I barely saw us being chefs. So it motivated me to go return to school and change my bachelor's program to food service management. And I really like what I do. I really enjoy creating experiences like these two, and I really enjoy creating a safe space for all of us, whether you're blue, black, female, LGBT, whatever you might be. I'm your safe space. So when most people come into my restaurant, and I work at Metropolis by Marquis Samuelson World Trade Center, I say welcome home. I just want people to feel at home. I want people to feel safe, and I want people to feel seen.
Can I just add something?
Yeah, you're gonna add something.
I want to add something really quickly. So the question was,
what makes you get up no matter what's going on?
right.
No matter how many burning cookies you have,
Oh,
you gotta be
sorry.
a little close because we want to hear your beautiful voice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So what I was gonna say was that um, the motivation also comes from the fact that in addition to creating these experiences, one of my love languages is words of affirmation. So it's nothing like cooking or baking for someone and for them to give you the head nod and say, that was on point, or they slapping their knee, and that's what drives me. And so I just love making people happy with food.
That's cool. That's cool. I like those things because, when we're in the industry, we follow people through their lives. Like we talked about earlier, I've made cakes for people from the christenings to the first birthdays to seventh birthday. One client I have, I make their birthday cake every single year for the same little girl. And I don't even make cakes anymore. But I will pick up the phone and make that cake for her because I'm like, you know what? Grace is gonna call me and I'm gonna pick up the cake. I'm gonna make the cake for her and deliver it. Yes. So, I know you talked about being a som. That's what I heard, right? Not an easy thing to do. When I was in beverage management class here, okay, everything tastes like grapes. I don't care what they said. It didn't taste like these apricots. It didn't taste like these peaches, these blackberries. None of it. I thought they were lying, but I knew what they were doing before they were reading the description. Before they were in class, right? I wasn't hip to the game, so I clearly didn't do so well in the class. But I learned a lot, and I realized that over the years I had to develop that flavor. It wasn't something that was going to come to me right there and then. It was something I more had to study on paper and then later nurture. So how is that something how have you nurtured that over the years, and how long did it kind of take you? Maybe a little bit into what's the process, maybe a quick thing, what's the process, and do you guys meet up? Like, do you guys have wine together? Like, how does that go?
So,
Secret Society, let us know.
let us know. So what's interesting is, this is funny. So, one Johnson Wells, it's a university. I'm in a fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma, Blue Phi, But so I took beverage management as a concentration for my beverage program. It just looks cool, and I just wanted to learn. It looked like fancy. And I wanted to get a couple cocktails in my last trimester. Just being honest, I did all of my hard classes in my earlier semester. So it really didn't gravitate. I always thought like wine. Wine was cool. It seemed sophisticated. It seemed like something that grown people drink, right? Mm-hmm. So it wasn't until I worked for Hillstone Restaurant Group, who really like specializes in California reds and whites and Sauv Blanc and all of those things. And what I learned is that every 7 years your palate changes. So when I was about probably 18, 19, 20, well, no, let me say that. Post-college, it's about 21, 22, I really enjoyed white chocolate. I really enjoyed Riesling. I really enjoyed Moscato. I really enjoyed those sweeter things. And over time, I really started to enjoy that less. And I really started enjoying Pinot Noir. I really enjoyed it milk chocolate. So I really started it's just maturing your palate and just trying different wines from different parts of the world. And when it came to I decided that I was actually going to take the exam. I thought I had it in the bag for the most part. So I was like, let me fly to Atlanta. It's like $600 to take the test. And short story is, I went down there. No, after I got after I paid, they gave you a workbook. And I looked at the workbook, I was like, sheesh, this is some work. So I had 30 days to study. And I grinded. I was a GM at the time at Liberty House in Jersey City. And I like flashcards, tasting wine, swirling wine, not really spitting the wine. But yeah, I just really just committed to it and really just made it my own. And flew to Atlanta, was about 100 people testing. It was a 2-day tasting, only 30 people passed. And in no type of order, they said, how will you find out? They said, well, we'll just call your name off a list. So it's almost like being picked for the kickball, right? So I think I was probably number 97. So I'm like, I'm thinking like, oh, I'm gonna go home. My job paid for this. They're gonna call me a loser, But at number 97, I won't forget. They gave me my pen. I almost knocked over a whole table of champagne. But I was super elated. And what I do now, are honestly, I design beverage programs with Marcus, and I actually pair wine to music now. Yes.
Yes.
So I think music is an experience. Music is a feeling, and wine is a mood. So it's like a balance of emotions. So I kind of just continue to and just keep elevating my personal brand to what that is.
What's the turn up wine?
The turn of wine. Oh.
Right? What's the party?
Well, it depends on the vibe, actually.
Yeah, how you turn up, right?
Yeah, if you follow me on IG, I have a brand I'm pushing in the holiday season. It's called Vibe by the Glass.
Yes.
So I have like an after port, which is for a night in, from a night out to a night in.
Okay.
Then I have like bubbles if you feel like celebrating. So it's really based on the moment and based where you're trying to go, But I do love Turley. Turley is an old red Zen, made from an old vine out of Napa, and rosé. We have a beautiful rosé, a Lafette rosé out of Saint Tropez, black owned. So it's really important that with my where I am now is that I'm elevating, I'm pulling up people of color, of our minority groups. So my whole mission is really to elevate us, and I want us to do great all together.
See, you don't have to be on the line to be in the industry, right? That's the best part. I always teach my students, if you're not going to be on the line because you don't want to, the one joke we would have is, what's the temperature today? Because you would put the thermometer in your chef coat, and I'm like, what's the temperature today? To be sure, it's like it's 110. It's like, what's the temperature today? Oh, only 90. Okay, no problem, cool, 90. 90 degrees for X amount of hours, right? You could be chilling in the wine cellar, like having a good time, right? That's always a good time. So yeah, I love that wine story because the only reason why I learned about wine is I've had so many lives, I feel. I did the wine tastings for the Hart Agency, where they give you the liquor and you go to the events. And so that's what I used to do pre-COVID. It would be something I would do when I closed my shop. I needed some regular income. So I was like, it was in between time. I was like, I just need something fast. Let's figure out something. I was still catering. I was like, I need to meet some people because I'm not meeting the people anymore. So I went to do that. That's how I learned so much about wine. I didn't know it had so many different botanicals from this. If you have New Zealand wine or South African wine, it's so different.
South African wine is great.
It's top tier. It was the best gift I got, honestly. So you you opened up a bakery, and I tell people all you need is a bag of flour, some sugar, and a mixer, whatever else you need, right? So what made you want to do baking? And I mean, you talked about it a little bit, but when you got there, what made you decide what to make? And then when you realized what you want to make, what made you realize that wasn't it to make it?
Okay. So when my mom and I embarked on our very amateur journey as bakery owners, neither of us had owned a bakery. Never have we ever. At that time, I hadn't even stepped foot into a restaurant as far as not eating, not being a patron. But I would say that what kind of changed that situation for us was somebody came into the bakery one day and they asked for a nurse's coat. They had a daughter or someone that was graduating from nursing school, and they wanted to have a cake customized to look like a nursing scrub. And we both looked at each other and we were like, I'm so sorry, we can't do this. But we turned it away. And this was during a time that we were so slow. So the fact that we turned away this money was very aggravating to us. So what I did was, I had already come from a very artistic background. That was my jam. I wanted to be an art teacher. I had gone to college. I was going to become an art teacher. And so when we opened this bakery and this lady asked for this scrub, I'm like, I could do that. I'm gonna figure it out. So I, YouTube University, shout out. I figured it out. I carved it into not that one. I lost that sale, but following someone came and asked for something else. I can't even remember what that was. But I executed, and looking back now, it probably wasn't the best execution, but it was my first. It was my first cake, and I was self-taught, and I figured it the fuck out. And so I was just so proud of myself, and I think at that moment I was just like, okay, yeah, I can do this, and whatever is thrown our way, we're gonna figure it out.
There we go.
You did.
I don't know if that was
All right. Yeah. Let's see. Right. No, wait. So when you did the first cake, right?
Yeah,
Because I've been there.
Yes.
Do the cake. You think it doesn't look that great. Usually, it looks way better than you think.
Yeah.
We're our worst critics.
It tasted good.
That's all. That's what really matters, right? It doesn't. And sometimes I realize when it doesn't look well in this new age, I wouldn't want to be a cake decorator in this new age. But then, if it didn't match, you'd be like, you know what, I ran out of something, but I did something way better for you now, right?
Yeah.
Usually the trick is if you run out of something as a chef, you kind of convince the customer to take something else, but it's on purpose because usually you don't have glitter, maybe you're missing a fondant, maybe you dropped the cake and you have to redo the cake. So when did you realize, okay, so you're doing these cakes. Mm-hmm. Was the cakes your thing, or did you realize that you're like, I'm just going to do the cakes to get the money, and then I'm going to go back to what I was doing?
No, it was at that moment when I did that, whatever that next cake was, I can't remember at the time, but it was in that moment that I realized I had found my niche. I had found my space within the cake community or the baking industry, and it was carving cakes. It was customizing cakes. It was allowing me to be artistic. So it was no longer my mom's dream, it was now I had molded and turned this into something that was for me and fulfilling for myself. And also it was very therapeutic. Making cakes and having the music playing, for some reason, that's like a zone, that's a vibe, that's a whole vibe. And so hours. So I found such peace and purpose in that space.
Actually, I have a note. So I have so many stories always. So also, outside of the world of management and being a som, I did cakes, I would do children's cakes for the family and things like that. But it wasn't until I revisited baking again. It was after like Hurricane Sandy or Hurricane Irene, one of those ladies. And which my restaurant was actually flooded. So I really had to, in time of like trial and terror, you would have to do what you're good at. So I started doing like banana pudding. I started doing Southern, like peach cobbler, apple crisp, things that what I was known for. And I started to do pop-ups in my hometown in Pleasantville, New Jersey, closer to Atlantic City. So I would hop on the road, I would create a menu, and it sustained me. I would have maybe 30 to 40 orders. I would have a line around the house, and people just at the door picking up. I had a little pop-up in my mom's my mom's house. And fast forward, it was the same situation. Someone was like, "Oh, do you do cakes?" I'm like, "I guess. Sure, I'll do cakes. I guess I'll do it. I'll do it." So it started out, your first cake is like, fondant. That's when fondant became a thing. And, everyone wanted a sculpted cake that looked like something else. I had to do like a Avengers cake, and I had to do like a Noah's Ark cake. So, but it takes hours. hours and wine. Yes. So, and music, and good music as well. So it's just passion, really. And that is the secret sauce. Is you can't fake it, because we put in so many hours doing whichever passion that might be. But it's a secret sauce, and that secret ingredient is passion for sure.
Yeah, I remember those days. I used to do cakes. I was in a cake competition when it first came here to Kingsborough, and I had Chef Dominguez, and we were here. I want to say, so we practiced for weeks, but we didn't know what we were doing. She knew everything. She gave us all the answers, all the tools, and she was just really trying. It was really, really patient with us, and I feel like we literally finished those cakes the day before. I think we did like a 24-hour. We just stayed there and did the cakes. We were here at Kingsborough at like 2:00 in the morning finishing cakes. I hope they don't do that anymore, but I know that part. one of the best things I hear you too, and one of the best advice I think I got was, even if you don't know how to do it, just say yes and then ask somebody afterwards. So usually I'll just say yes to an order, and then I'll call. I have like a couple of chefs. I'll just call up and say, "Hey, I don't really know how to do this. Can you tell me what to do?" Or I'll say, "They ask me for the money. I'll get back to you 48 hours with a quote." I really don't know the quote. I'm just waiting for somebody else to answer the phone to tell me what the rate is for everybody else. So I was doing, I was doing my market analysis. So making sure and asking other chefs. Yes, research and development. That's right. And also recipe development sometimes, because maybe I made a cake and the cake doesn't withstand being tiered. And I'm calling my friend, I'm like, oh, I got a 2-tier cake, but this cake is too soft. What can I do? So usually that's what happens. You say yes, figure it out afterwards. Call everybody. So let's see. So now you guys have been in the industry for a long time. What point did you pivot from the original idea? Because we've all seemed like we pivoted from the first idea to the place where you are now. Like, what was the switch point, and what was like, you know what, this might not be my path, but I still want to be in food?
So for me, the switch point and the pivot moment was absolutely, and I'm sure there's for many people can say the same, was pandemic. I literally was working at a restaurant full time. In addition to that, I was supplying restaurants with my wholesale product. So when restaurants shut down, all my money shut down. So I had no option but to figure out how we were gonna eat. Eat. Okay, so what we did was we figured that people were still asking us. They would want to meet us at our house with the mask on and everything.
I've had those.
To get the brownies. So I was like, you know what? We're not doing this anymore. We're going to switch to direct to consumer, and we're going to start shipping these brownies. We figured out packaging. I literally designed my own packaging on Canva, uploaded it to the company that was printing the boxes and the bags, and we were hit the ground running. And from there, we have not looked back. I would never say never. I would probably not lean towards having a storefront again after having this pandemic experience, because I realized that I realized that in a direct-to-consumer market, there's not many people doing that. So now I've cornered something for myself that I think will be very fruitful, and I've seen it work. So I haven't gone back to the restaurant. I still have the wholesale accounts plus some. So life is different.
And I just want to say, Nicole, you've inspired me.
Right?
You've inspired me. You know, she's inspired me. Me and Nicole, we go way back, and seeing where we first met. She was a server, and I was one of her regulars at Bonefish Grill at a restaurant at the bar. But yeah, just great job, and really just to direct to consumer is genius, and you've inspired me to perhaps do the same thing with my banana pudding business. I do a banana pudding business as well. So thank you. Thank you.
Who's cutting onions?
But to answer your question, Lex, honestly, early this year I broke my leg. I slept at work, and you're in the house, and it's just all mental, and you think like, oh, what am I going to do? What should I do next? And honestly, I thought I was done with operations. And I was like, I'm done. I'm done running around this restaurant all day. But I had an opportunity when I came back in just July, and be a director, downtown, and it's been great. And it's really
We saw each other at Atlanta.
right. Yes.
Yeah, we
yes.
met in Atlanta.
Yes. That's so funny.
Met in Atlanta.
I forgot about that.
I go to all of Marcus' restaurants when I go out of town.
Yes. So I met Lex in Atlanta. Was it last year?
Last year, yep.
Last year.
Road trip.
It's so funny. God. But yeah, just like I love hosting. I love entertaining us. I love providing experiences and meeting great new people. Shout out to Chef Marcus Samuelson. He has a wealth of knowledge and just a great network of people that he really mentors a lot of, you know, minority chefs and hospitality and food makers and entrepreneurs. But yeah, he kind of wrote me back in to just do it and just do it on an elevated level. And it really just allows me to continue to push and be great and just continue to imagine and be creative. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. Because then you now you got to travel. You were there. Now you back in New York, different scenery. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
I like that. It's always good. So now that you're here and we've come this long journey. I feel like it wasn't that long, right? But my sons are clearly bigger, so that means it was that long. Yeah, time is moving. I've come from the cookie table from outside my house to a bakery to now here, right? So time has clearly gone by. What do you see is like the next thing? Like, what are you looking forward to? What do you want to do? What are you looking forward to, like the food industry doing? I know, like you said, during the pandemic, we all had to pivot, right? We had to change our course. I closed my shop right before the pandemic. It just so worked. It worked out for me because I wouldn't have made it. Would not have made it. And they called me to do food for soup kitchens. That's how I switched to savory. And I would do 250 meals a week solo because nobody wanted to work. And that's how I got into doing, like you said, like things people were like, okay, yeah, I want some cookies, or can you just meet me with my mask on and figure it out? No problem. I'll just put it in the cart and you can just get it from the cart and leave the money in the cart. We were doing weird stuff. So those were my moments that I kind of got me here. So like, and now I know what the future is. Like, okay, now I still want to go back to that. I kind of want to go back to the place. It sounds crazy, right? I want to lounge. I want to create dessert beverages. So I want to create an alcohol menu that has desserts. So instead of like being regular things, it'll be named after classic desserts and new desserts, and then tapas. So it'll be Spanish and Southern tapas. And that's what I want to do because I figured that people love to eat, but sometimes they don't want to buy heavy things. But they'll buy a bunch of mini burgers, but they might not buy one big burger. So, trying to shifting focus of what I want to do. So that's something I want to do. So what is your thing, your next, what are you going to do?
Sure. So now we are outgrowing our space and we are at a point where I need a manufacturing.
What space do you have?
Okay,
now?
so we work out of commercial kitchens. So and it's not our own. So I need a manufacturing distribution situation that I can mass produce, ship, and or package and distribute all in one facility. And this cannot happen where we're at any longer just because the storage isn't there. The location isn't prime for where we're at right now. And
it's a shared kitchen.
It's a shared kitchen. So that comes with a shared refrigerator, shared locker, storage situation. And just so everyone's aware, the storage and refrigerator situation is also another expense on top of.
How much? Tell my
so it goes by square footage of space. So like if you want a shelf, for example, a 3-foot rack might be I think they do it like $20 a foot. So now you know that you need 4 shelves. Do the math. I mean, that's a lot compared to already renting the space to actually produce the product. So we need our own space where we can pay one rent and hire more employees, and then financially it makes more sense. But in addition to that, I am very much seeing our business going. We just launched our vegan line, so we have an array of different brownies, and I see it going somewhere far. I don't know if I want to go into retail at the moment, but I want them to be on everybody's doorstep. So I want it to be a household name where everybody can order and be excited to see this package at their door. And it's my brownies. Yes.
I love that. Okay. So what's next for me is a little sneak peek. I plan on doing a DTC as well as shipping my banana pudding around the world, and just allowing a little bit of me to go at everyone's doorstep as well. And I created, live multiple lives again. I do have an apparel line called Eat Pray Grind, so I'm working on allowing that to creating that into a podcast.
Okay.
Really just fireside chats, having a talk of just like this, and just really just I think there's so many stories, and there's so many of us who have started out as prep cooks or decided they want to be who you wanted to be. So some self-proclaimed, some educated. It really doesn't matter at this point. It's about the passion. It's about the commitment that you put into your craft. So I just want to have a conversation, just like vivid conversations. We just chat and we talk. We have honest talks about, I've had, being a token, being a token Black person in a predominantly white space. Just really, microaggressions, things like that are like just serious conversations that I just want to allow. Never get touched. It's not a platform. There's no one's listening. So, I believe, we relate, a lot in a lot of spaces, but no one's really kind of creating. I just want to be a storyteller, and I did write a book during the pandemic. This is a small memoir about my journey from like 8 to 30. So a lot of things on the rise. So I'm just being diligent and just trusting God.
Amen. Like this.
That's good. So a book, a space with maybe, hear me out, okay, like my favorite bagel place in the Bronx called Just Bagels.
Okay.
They don't have a retail space, but you can walk up and get stuff.
Okay.
So they just have an office. It's the guy. You go in there, but you have to buy like a half a dozen, which is totally fine. I will buy half a dozen brownies, so I can have a half a dozen brownies for the time. And it's also his warehouse. So he just has it in a little section right there, good to go. So, maybe think about it. By appointment only, maybe only 4 hours. You give some nice kids some internships, that'll work out, right? Okay, I like that. And then they get to do a tour. I'm visioning this because then I'll have my students come when you finally build it, and then that's a tour. We have a trip, okay? I like this, right? I hope you guys enjoyed our chat. Hope you got something. We're gonna open the floor for questions. If you have any questions or anything, we're here to answer them. Doesn't matter how crazy they are, right? But yeah, thank you guys for listening.
Thank you.
Wow, I don't know if all of you can really appreciate what you all just got. I'm going to leave a little bit for the closing. So I'm going to open it up for questions, and I'll come up to you with the mic if you have one. Questions, curiosities, concerns. We talked a lot of things here, and all of you are in this. So I'm going to get her hand first, and then you're coming next, okay? May or may not get to you, but if you can maybe reach over. We're wired.
Hello. How are you? So I have a question about you guys. You said you were in the art major before and you were in management. At this point now in life, did you guys ever regret neglecting that major, or at this moment now you think, oh, maybe if I would have stuck with that major, my life would have been different now? Did you guys ever regret it?
And we probably in a top 4 right now, right? That would be.
If I stuck with Baruch, I'd probably be at Ernest & Young. That was the path. I was going to go to Ernest & Young, or I was going to, Lehman Brothers had just closed after I'd already made my decision to go to college. It was 2008, and it was the crash, and everybody didn't. I had a path. I was going to go there. I already knew where I was going to go, but now I'm going back to my MBA. So I wish I would have stayed a little longer, only because it had certain things I needed as an entrepreneur that I already kind of used that, because I use accounting 1 all the time. I use my business law a lot. But after that, I'm glad I made the decision when I did, because sometimes the longer you wait, the more likely you're not going to do it. So I was glad that I made that at that moment, I made that switch. And just now I just figure I'll go back. So that works out kind of like that.
For me, I have no regrets. I have no desire to be a teacher in a classroom. I have an 8-year-old child, and I do homework with her at night, and I'm like, I can't imagine this being my life. God bless the teachers.
I hats off, but I had no idea what I was doing in choosing that career for myself. I just didn't have the direction, to be honest. When I was in high school and you were good at art, no one said these are the careers you can possibly excel in. You know what I mean? So the only thing that I thought in my mind that was going to allow me to be artistic and was to be a teacher. And it was that ignorance that I don't regret because I'm very happy now.
Pay teachers more. Pay teachers more. You guys are shaping America. You guys are shaping the world. So shout out to you guys. I have no regrets. No regrets at all. I think regretting is like the enemy of progress. Because everything happens the way it should happen. As long as you're being diligent and you're being disciplined, and even if you're not, things happen. But I've lived an awesome life, and I've been able to achieve. My goal was to be a director by 40, and I was able to achieve it by 36. But it's just really about just being focused and just staying true to yourself. So.
Sure. No, but but you do have to use the microphone, okay?
So I heard your last part when you said that you worked in a restaurant and always being the only token Black person. How did you achieve that and overcome that? Because that is the situation I dealt with first stepping into the culinary world. I didn't like it because I always got the back end of it because I was always the only Black minority female in a kitchen full of men. And I was super quiet, because I was plotting. I started taking over. They hated me after that because I told them to not play with my skills in this kitchen. But I want to know, how did you handle that? Because I feel like I could have came at it in a better way, but it was like, once you start messing with me, my anxiety clicks. So I'm going to do the best thing I can, and I'm going to leave it on the table. Oh, no, on the plate. Respectfully.
Of course, always respectful.
Sometimes disrespectful, sometimes. Honestly, it was hard. Tears, to be honest. Sometimes, I was the only Black guy. I was always the only person from New Jersey. I was always the only baker. I was always the only, and I really just, anxiety is real. Depression is real, mental health is real, and I really just put my head down and just went to work and let my results really show because, what God gives you, no one can ever take. Amen. And it's not to sound so preachy, but it's the reality that still to today, I work in spaces where I'm always the most people, they're like, oh, you're the Barack, of whatever we're going. I'm just like,
is that the only Black person
right.
you know?
Again, exactly. It's real, and it motivated me because someone's going to come behind me,
right?
And I got to put on for the team. So I got to put on and make sure that that make it easier for the next person that's going to come behind me. Like, oh, well, the other guy that was here, because there's nothing worse than saying well, the other guy wasn't shit, so you're probably not going to be that either. So it's motivation, and it's not easy. It's not easy at all, but it's not for the weak, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, but it takes a person to really push through, and I'm proud of myself. Shout out to me.
Shout out to you. Can I answer that same question really quickly? So I have I'm also front of the house, and when I remember getting my first New York fine dining job. And there was a whole vetting process, I would say it started off with, because this chef was about to be a huge deal. So everybody wanted to work for him. Everybody wanted a new job. So there was about 60 servers that we went through we had to take tests and OD, right? And so at the end of each day, they would send an email saying, if you didn't get an email, you knew to come back the next day. If you got the email, you knew, it was a wrap. So I got an email and it said, "Dear Natalie, my name is Nicole.
It says, "We regret to inform you that, you weren't selected for the next process of the serving, whatever." So I went in there the next day because I'm like, my name's not Natalie. So you got the right email, but my name ain't Natalie. So I went in there and everybody's like, you can see the management. They're like, what's the fuck she's doing here? Because I told her not to come back. And so I'm like, you know what? My name's not Natalie. Who do I need to speak to? Because I need the clarification. You have to tell me to my face that I didn't get it. So I speak to the guy, whoever I need to speak to, and he's like, we fucked up. We got the name wrong. Sorry, Mom. We got the name wrong, but it was you, But because it was our mistake, I'm going to give you another week to prove yourself. Girl, boy, everybody, don't you know that I was the last man standing after 5 years of working at that place? That day, so they had like a friends and family situation. I made it through to the end, and at the family and friends, after the chef walked, this big guy, the chef, comes up to me and he goes, "They love you." And for me, that was the proof in the pudding, because y'all was trying to get rid of me, And so it was enough for me, and that was my head nod to myself as well. Like, you are meant to be here. Don't let them tell you you're not, and they'll figure it out, So keep going, girl.
It's a hard situation because as of now, I have a female executive chef right now. I don't want to be no sous chef or executive chef at no vegan restaurant, but I swear up and down she think I want her spot. I don't want that baby girl. I don't want it. But it's a power trip for her, and I don't know how.
And it usually is
that, because the first female executive chef I had, we were like this. My second week there, I ran her entire restaurant by myself, only learning that menu in 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So I know the capabilities and what I can do. I just wanted to be like, dang, like, if you don't have faith in me, I don't need you to tell me I'm doing good. Because if I mess up, I already know. I take my own criticism. It's a very constructive. Mm-hmm. But don't sit here and act like I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. Right. Don't make me feel like I'm really beneath you because you have a higher position. Because the same way you got that position, baby girl, that same position can be snatched from you.
Yeah. And sometimes, like he said, sometimes you gotta keep your head down and do your job. Because once you do your job, your results will show. Amen. And people recognize good work, tenacity, and perseverance. So as long as you keep going, trust me, it all of it just works itself out in some way, shape, or form.
And really quickly,
it always works out.
Always. And
it always works out.
Here's a fast forward too, though. Just like with Isaiah, you never know when these relationships are going to come full circle, right? So their industry is so small and it's so tight that you don't know if the next job you're going to have to work with this person again. So the best thing you can do for yourself is just try and deal and make it a space where it's peaceful for yourself. But you just never know. And you don't want to burn any bridges. You don't want to get a name for yourself within the industry that is, undeserving of your qualities, So hang in there.
I done had a couple of chefs where I legit was working for chefs that was on TV. I had a whole chef telling me I couldn't cook, and I said, "That's why you came in fourth place. Stop playing with me, because I'm sitting here doing you a favor, staying a whole 7-hour shift just because it's Passover. I did that for you because you didn't trust somebody else to do it. But then it was like, all right, you know what? It is what it is. During the pandemic, I was working at jobs that I didn't even want to do because I ended up doing a whole nursing home, and I was like, it's not for me. But when I got to work in more, like other places that started really seeing it, I was becoming a sous chef within my first 2 weeks. I was really putting it down like, this is what I want and I know I'm going to get it. But it took a long time for me to actually get to having somebody really trust me enough, because my culinary director, he loved me. Second time he met me, he loved me. So having all of the people that did be on TV, I'm like, well, dang, like, y'all can teach me something. And not have the animosity. Like, we're supposed to be the most dysfunctional family ever. Let's be that, but don't downplay me as a cook. Because I told people I didn't even become a prep cook. I wasn't a dishwasher. I went straight to jumping, and I was on the line. So I told people, like, they were like, well, how do you do it and not being able to, space out your time? You miss a lot of time and stuff with your family. But I'd rather do what I love doing. My family gonna be here. But I'd rather reach the end goal of being that.
I just say, and I'll end it, and it's just like it's about diligence, and it's about. My 20s was rough, and I sacrificed a lot. I worked 60, 80 hours a week, and yeah, I work for free. Sometimes you take pay cuts and work for a lot of these celebrity chefs, but again, just like regret, you want to make sure, especially when we're in a space where the social media, things like that, it can be really stripping of your really stripping up to your self-esteem. It's really like I always I tell a lot of my staff is like, but even as leaders, it's just like to really like comb like my secret sauce is I comb back my emotions and just focus on doing the right job. You have it's always want to be a person at every job that you want to have a problem. So you never want to quit a job unless it's an unsafe situation. It's always going to be Joe Jan. It's always going to be someone that you never want to find a perfect job ever. Yeah. So it's kind of putting your head down and just like focus on getting the job done, getting an experience, and regardless if you get paid whether they acknowledge you or not, you're still building your resume. You're still making a name for yourself.
And whether you believe it or not, but even if you're riffing with somebody, there's somebody else watching how you handle that situation.
Yeah.
And so now that person might be your next boss. You know what I mean? They want to see you keep your cool in a hot kitchen.
I want to be mindful of time, so I'm going to ask if there's any other quick question that we want to ask, because I want to make time. We're entering the cookie social part of the event today, so the cookies are out on the counter. If you're allergic to peanuts, stay away, but otherwise you're going to enjoy them. Someone who hasn't asked a question first, and then I'm happy to go back to you if you want. Any other questions, concerns, curiosities?
Those cookies got ginger in it?
I don't think so. Chef was one of the reasons. Okay, round two.
I just have a quick question, maybe it's a little weird one, but as professional chefs, because I cook at home myself too, how you guys balance about picking the ingredients, like, like organic or like regular, Because like, if you buy like organic or better quality ingredients, like it turns out to taste better or something. Yes, oh my God.
Okay.
They're all organic. Yeah, I don't, because that's not my clientele. So that's the easiest way. First, if you figure out what your clientele is, then that. If you figure out your clientele is that, then you have to charge accordingly.
Right.
They just kind of understand. Those people kind of know what it is. It's like when I made my first vegan cake.
Right.
I'm like, this doesn't taste good. But I'm like, you know what? And I tried another person's vegan cake. I'm like, oh, this tastes similar.
Right.
This is what they like. So you have to realize that it might not be your thing. It's your client's thing. They know what they want. They'll pay for what they want. And you'll be able to pivot in those ways. That's the easiest way to think. Like, who's your client? And if you're going to decide if that's a thing that your claim to fame, and if it doesn't matter to you, that's what, like, how does it matter? Yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly. That's not my clientele either. They want something that tastes amazing and looks great. So I can execute that without it being organic. But I will say, I do choose
Better ingredients.
better
Right.
ingredients.
You choose good ingredients.
And for me, I've been finding organic milk, or I use soy milk for baking. And I've been finding this at a really good rate, so like I can provide that now.
Organic ingredients, but not an organic
Experience,
item.
a fully organic experience. I don't know.
Just keeping it short. Just honestly, it's really about what you want to offer. Again, it's really based on your client, and
Make sure you charge.
make sure you charge.
That's all.
That's really and check your ego. If it's like, oh, I don't want to do this. If you want the money, or if you want to provide that experience, check your ego at the door, and again, charge. Don't feel that's 101.
Just charge.
Don't feel bad about charging what, because you want to end up like, oh, I want to do it. I want to. You feel bad about it, but people are still buying probably 16, 17 glass of wine.
Yeah.
People will pay, so based on just because they're in a restaurant, but charge your worth. You starting out, it may be small because you're trying to make a name for yourself, but
Charge
your
your
money.
money because it's
Yeah.
hard to go back.
Yeah.
You can't go back.
Yeah, you can't go back down. Well, a big round of applause once again for these wonderful, extremely talented humans. You all, it's a shame more people didn't come because they really missed out on this really great, informative panel with such a wealth of experience here. You're hard pressed to find this amount of talent in a room, and to have access to them. So that said, cookies are there. If you're allergic to nuts, don't do it. They've been around them. But if you're not allergic to nuts, please do it. Because this is CUNY, I have to mention this. In order for us to pay for the coffee, you all have to put a name and a signature on that piece of paper that's on the clipboard. So please do that. Even if you didn't do it, just do that so that we don't have any problems, having to put out of pocket for a cup of coffee. Have as many cookies as you'd like. And our panelists are not going anywhere. So while I am going to wrap up the event, I am going to say thank you to all of you who did come today. Please spread the word. We're trying to do more of these events on campus, continuing to bring people from the field here to the students so that you guys can get the sort of advice and support that you need in your career development. You can find the Career Development Office in C102, which is right around the hall in the C building. We are available all the time. You can also find all of our information on the website, and we do have a flyer on the front table if you haven't already gotten that. If you are a culinary or tourism student, you will likely be looking for me. My name is Alejandro, and I am the person who is specialized in working with culinary and tourism students. However, all of our advisors are more than well equipped to support all of you. Resume building, prepping for interviews, cover letter writing, all that stuff we can support with. That being said, once again, thank you all for coming today, and we hope to see you around.